All right, this is the second and very short last part of the presentation on the War of 1812. I did want to just spend a few minutes on the Hartford Convention because I was trying to race in my 15-minute window that I had to create that last video. So the Hartford Convention, really, because of the timing of it, because it falls on the heels of the Battle of New Orleans, which falls right before the Treaty of Ghent. News of the Treaty of Ghent reaches back to the United States. The United States, people in the U.S. are feeling extremely victorious, and so when this group of Federalists try or suggest seceding and suggest questioning the U.S.'s decision to go to war in the first place, they look like a bunch of sour grapes, basically. And this is really, the Hartford Convention is really the undoing of the Federalist Party. The last little bit that I want to talk about, again, cause and effect when we talk about wars and conflicts. So there were several major legacies that come out of the War of 1812. The United States beats for a second time, or at least does not beat, but holds its own again against the world's strongest naval power. So the United States definitely is starting to earn some international credibility. Now, again, this is nothing near this concept of today of the U.S. being a superpower. That kind of, the idea of a superpower does not exist until after World War II, okay? But it's a new nation. Nobody's really taking them seriously, and the fact that they were able to hold their own, at least in the War of 1812, does give them much more credibility as a nation. Also, the United States out of this war as a result, because of the Treaty of Ghent, the United States officially accepts that Canada is part of the British Empire, and they accept the border distinguishing the United States and Canada. We just talked about how the Federalist Party faded out as a result of the Hartford Convention. Tecumseh and his brother Tenskwatawa and their unfortunately failed attempt at unifying the tribes east of the Mississippi River put a relative end to conflict at that time period in terms of mass rebellion. Okay, rebellion still continues on, and it will continue on against the United States' efforts to expand west, but the United States definitely acquires more land from Native people as a result of this war. And one of the things that we're going to talk about in the next screencast is how the United States, the War of 1812 basically jumpstarts the United States' industrial revolution. They had to stop relying on the British for their manufactured goods, because clearly the British were not going to be trading goods with the United States when they were at war with one another. And so the United States had to become self-reliant, and as a result of that, began forming and creating factories and slowly industrializing. Again, that's going to be something that we talk about next screencast when we talk about the era of good feelings and the rise of nationalism. And the last little bit that comes out of this is William Henry Harrison and Andrew Jackson are seen as just these epic war heroes. And we certainly will talk about Andrew Jackson quite a bit later. William Henry Harrison, unfortunately, his reputation is going to be much bigger than his presidency, his term in office, so which is quite short. So these are our big ideas or big outcomes of the War of 1812. Okay, so I wonder how, thinking of synthesis, how this War of 1812, how the United States is positioned after the War of 1812 as compared to how the United States is positioned after the American Revolution. And so hopefully you can kind of reflect on that a little bit. That's all for today, and we will talk later about Monroe and the era of good feelings.